Welcome to The Fight with Teddy Atlas, presented by Dynamic Striking. I'm Ken Rideout, joined as always by the voice of combat sports, the legend Teddy Atlas. Teddy, how you doing?
Good. Better since you sent your barber over to me to fix me up a little bit. Thank you, Ken. Appreciate it.
Yeah, you look great.
Thank you for flying him in. And
happy to do it.
I appreciate it. And he did a great job. He's kind of like you. He travels now with a little bit of an entourage. He brings somebody to shampoo. I didn't need all that. Ken, I appreciate the hell out of you, but I didn't need the shampooing. And then he had a guy come in with a little broom to sweep up the hair. My wife appreciated it. She said, that Ken, he really does know how to do things. He does them at a high level. So thank you for that.
No, my pleasure. Can I brag for a minute about my son?
Yes.
My middle guy, he's 8. He's about to be 9. He's plays little league. This is the first year that the kids pitch versus the coach or the pitching machine, and his team was playing in the finals, the championship game at the local Nashville Little League, and they were up by maybe 2-3 runs in the bottom of the next to the last inning, 2 outs, bases loaded for the other team. They brought him in to pitch. Teddy, I could have had a panic attack. I would have rather got in a cage and fight a lion than to watch this. I was like, oh God, please let him do well. Struck out the guy, got out of the gym, and then I was like, okay, good, he's getting out. Maybe they'll put in another pitcher. I want him to do good, but I get so nervous for him because this is like the biggest moment he's been in sports, and it's pressure. So he goes out to pitch the bottom of the last inning. First guy grounds out, and the next 2 guys he struck out. It was as close to crying as I've ever come at a sporting event. I was just like, oh my, thank you, God, thank you. And the kids were chanting his name, and the level of pride on his face, because he's not like a very supremely confident kid. He's just a normal little kid. So to see him get out of that situation and be like kind of like the hero of the moment, oh my God, we're still on a high from it. We were so proud of him, so happy.
Nothing better than seeing your kids happy and obviously excelling, but most importantly that they're happy and that they're appreciated for what they do. It builds confidence. It's so important, and so important to a parent knowing that they are going to feel good about themselves after such an experience.
And I was so proud of all of his siblings, because all my other kids, they were genuinely so happy for him and jumping around and jumping on him when he came home. Oh, it was so nice. It was, I just didn't want to have to give him the talk of, hey, buddy, you win some, you lose some. We dust ourselves off, we come back. It's so much better to be like, you did it, man. You showed up when the pressure was on and you did it. I'd already prepared myself to give him the speech of like, that's all right, it's just a game. Don't worry about it.
We'll come back strong. Is he lefty or righty?
He's a lefty.
Oh my God, he's going to make a lot of money, Ken. Be lefty pitchers. There's a big market for lefty pitchers. Big.
I hope so. I'm just so happy to see him be happy. It was great.
Now you opened the door for me to do just a tiny bit. I'll make it short. A bit of bragging. I mean, I got to go back a lot of years. My son Teddy, the third, has got a birthday coming up at the end of this month. So he's far from what I'm about to describe. He's many years removed from that, but he was a little kid, a little leaguer. I don't remember how old he was, but whatever little leaguers were back then, 10, 11, 9, whatever. And they had won a game. There was towards the end of the season, and they won a game. They had to be tied for the division lead, and it created the next day. It created a playoff game to get into to win the division. To win the division and be into the playoffs. So they picked him to pitch that game on the next day. They noticed. And it was in the morning. It was a morning game. And I remember, like you're describing, how nervous I was, and, getting there with him early and all that stuff and, watching him warm up. And tell me if your kid was this way too. The seriousness that just naturally kind of he took on, like not anything where you saw, nervous or this, but just a seriousness, a quietness, where he was to himself. he knew what was 10 years old, but he knew what was in front of him, what the pressure was, what the job, and I, at that point, tried to leave him alone. Of course, the coach was one of those maniacs. Nice guy. Don't get me wrong. Most of those coaches are good guys. They give their time for nothing to the kids, so they're good guys. But he was like, "Now we need this. We need just reminded him like how important the game was." But he goes out there, and again, you just have to trust my character. I hope that. That this would not be made up just to stay on pace with the great Ken Rideout's family. He threw a one-hitter. And obviously it was against a good team because, they were tied for first place. And they had to get, and I remember what you just described, everybody throwing their gloves in the air, all these kids, like everything they had seen on TV, rushing the mound, jumping on them, all that stuff. And it's just such a proud moment. And you just brought me back to that. So thank you for that. And the one thing I add to it is it's a reminder of, I know sometimes the pro athletes, I love Charles Barkley, he's one of my favorites. And I know that some of them have said sometimes, I'm not a role model. I understand them saying that, and they want their own life, and they don't want to be attached to the responsibility of how their life may, in some way influence someone else's child. But like it or not, people are in the eye, in the public eye, in sports and whatever it may be, to that point, you're going to be seen as a role model. You're gonna be emulated. People are going to emulate what you do. Kids are that way. They're that way. My little 2-year-old granddaughter, she repeats everything that she hears. Everything. Verbatim. Like a little parrot. Cutest little parrot you ever saw. And everything her brother says. And that's what kids do. So when these kids, where did that celebration come from? Simple, magical, pure thing like throwing the gloves in the air, jumping on. It came from what they had seen their heroes do. What they had seen the Mets, the Yankees, whatever. What they had seen done. So they emulated it. They copied it. So whether we like to or not, we need to acknowledge as grown-ups, as parents, just as people that care about our environment, care about our communities, our neighborhoods, we need to understand that kids, whether you're a Little League coach, whether you're a teacher, whether you're a parent, whether you're an uncle, whether you're a neighbor, that might be helping a kid. Kids will look at what you do, and they will emulate you in many, many, many cases. So it does matter how you act, what you do in front of kids, whether you lose your temper and you get crazy and you're cursing everyone out and you're ready to go. It does matter because in many cases, kids will duplicate that. So I just thought we always try to connect life on our shows here when we can, when we think it's appropriate. So thanks for tell your son congratulations to the next Bob Gibson and Sandy Koufax. Tell him congrats. I'm glad he's a lefty because he's going to make a lot of money.
Well, you know what he said to me when he did it last night? I was talking. I was like, man, I'm so proud of you just because you did your best. And he said, you're going to talk about it on the show with Teddy? I said, do you want me to? He's like, yeah, that would be cool.
And another thing, it is cool. And one other thing, whether it's sports or whether it's a science fair or whatever the heck it is, whatever. But what it does is it teaches. Teaching starts at an early age. Sometimes we don't even realize it. It teaches kids they can depend on themselves.
Yes.
It does. It really does. It teaches kids that not only they can win, but it teaches them that they can handle things.
Yeah.
And that can be built on. And that should be built on. And that's where the parents come in, to responsibly build on that. Like you would build a house and go from the first floor to the second floor. And when the second floor is secure, maybe you go to the third floor. So anyway, that's
well. I got one. Since you brought up Charles Barkley, I'll tell you one more. I know this one's going to get a lot of attention. So I was in New York, and I went to Thursday or Friday night with my friend Yves Schulman, who's the host of Catfish on MTV. He said to me, hey, you want to come to a party with me tonight? I had a customer dinner with some work clients. And I said, yeah, all right, I'll meet you there. Well, he didn't tell me it was the Sports Illustrated swimsuit, like private launch party of this thing. No, I'm not joking. So I get there. There's the New York Liberty female players are there. There's just stunningly beautiful girls that are in the magazine. The cover girl, Yumi Uni, is there.
Did they recognize you? Did they recognize you? Yes, they did.
No, they recognized my friend Neve from Catfish, and they came running over, and I go, Neve, I think these girls think I'm on Catfish too, because they're being way too nice to me. And he started laughing.
And you didn't explain to him that you won, right?
No, of course not. I was like, hey, what's up, girls? But here's the best. So I see Julian Edelman, who I've met a couple of times in passing, and I go over and we're chit-chatting, and I said, listen, I hate to do this, but my kids love Brady, Gronk, and Edelman. They love them. And they've never met them. And I was like, do you mind if we take a picture? He's like, a picture? Give me that phone. Maybe Rob can put the video in here. I sent him the text. So Julian Edelman takes my phone and he yells to my boys, Jack, Cameron, and Luke, I'm here with your pops. I heard you guys are a bunch of Boston kids. Let's go. My kids, they could have died the next day. It was the greatest thing they'd ever seen. They were like, Dad, can we please bring a phone to school to show our friends? And I was like, man, Julian, you have no idea what an impact you made on these kids. They now think that I'm like the coolest dad under the sun. Of course, their next question was like, can you have Brady send us one too? I was like, I'll work on that. But shout out to Julian Edelman, big fight fan. I told him maybe someday we'll have him on the show to help break down some big fights.
Well, of course we could have him on. That would be great. I know one thing. Your kids, they have to love this podcast then. They have the light that it has brought to their father and to them. And matter of fact, we got to get them in the studio. If you ever have a sick day, their last day of school is Wednesday, so I'm going to have them hiding in the basement for the next 12 weeks while we record, because they know when we're recording, they try to stay quiet and stay out of the way. Well, if you ever have a sick day that they can step in and replace you,
for sure.
I'm not going to stop that from happening.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, that would be... That would be great. You remind me when you met the Sports Illustrated, they all thought you were part of Catfish or whatever.
MTV.
Catfish. I'm Catfish. I think of Catfish Hunter. But there was a commercial years ago. I think it was a Bud Light commercial where the guy came into a party, big shot party, like the parties you go to and that, we're talking about right now. And he went into a party, and the guy, one of the girls came up to him and said, are you the director of, so-and-so with, Star Wars or this or that, whatever the hell it was. And he's thinking for a second about, telling the truth. And then he says, I am. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. How about the fights?
Yeah, let's get into it. One of my favorite fighters right now, David Benavidez, looked every bit the superstar that I think he is. We talked about it in the preview that I hope they have medics on standby, because Lemieux's great, but he comes forward and he gets hit. And my God, did Benavidez hit him, had him down in the first, the second, finally stopped him in the third. Thank God the ref stopped it. The ref said he was going to jump in and stop it at the end of the first. He had, Benavidez was just unloading punches. I think he hit him with like 15 left hooks in a row without throwing a right. He just had him on Queer Street, and right as the bell rang, the ref jumped in. He said he was going to stop it, but since the bell rang, he's like, all right, I'm going to give him another chance, and it didn't do him any favors, because the second round was, I can't even believe Lemieux survived the second round. He was putting it on him that bad, but Mauro Ranallo for Showtime said it perfectly. Too big, too strong, too good. Benavidez looked like he was in a different weight class, maybe even 2 weight classes bigger. He looked humongous. His hands were so fast. But I'm dying to hear what you thought about the performance and what you think about how Benavidez looked in that fight.
Well, a couple of things to jump into where you just left it open for me. First of all, I would have, what Mauro said, it obviously is the obvious, it's correct. And as part of the explanation, you could also go with the other side, with Lemieux. Too old, too many miles on the odometer, too small, too
Very
easy
true.
to hit. See, I get to the most important in my business only because that's my business. I mean, that's how I made a living. That's what I aspired to be since I'm a teenager, a fighter, and then, of course, a trainer, a broadcaster. And I was fortunate enough to be able to do that, but it goes back to the most simplistic, most important part of my business, of this business, of the hurt business. You can't be that easy to hit. And so you could start right there. Color that box. He's just too easy to hit. Whether he's small, whether he's large, whether he's a middleweight, whether he's moved up to super middle, obviously part of that being too easy to hit is because of the miles on his odometer, whatever. His style, his teaching, his lack of teaching, his technique, his lack of technique, whatever. Just, too small, too many miles, but too damn easy to hit. And, even you are what you are. Floyd Mayweather had an exhibition in Abu Dhabi, I believe, right, over the weekend. We're not going to get into that much more than the point I'm making here. And he's still hard to hit. That's why at the age that he is, what is he, 46, 45, whatever he is now, he's making money, millions of dollars off his name, but God bless him. And he's picking his opponents. It was like a sparring session, even a controlled sparring session, to be quite frank. Because if you had that guy in camp with you, you'd probably send him home at some point. Maybe be good for the first 2 weeks, but after that, you would say, well, he's not going to get us ready. We need to be pushed a little bit more, so you probably upgraded a little bit. And I'm not knocking the guy. The guy was also in his 40s. You'll get the name. Rob will give you a name, so we should do that, give the name out there. But, he was also in his 40s. He was undefeated. He had a draw, but he hadn't fought anyone, obviously. And he got a payday. And look, no knock on him. He's fought Floyd Mayweather now. God bless him. But, Floyd, even at this, again, a hand-picked guy, but even at this point...
Guy's name was Don Moore.
Yeah, Don Moore. Even at this
Dubai.
point... In Dubai. Even at this point in his career, you are what you are. Floyd is so hard to hit. Lemieux was what he is. And that's part of why they picked him. And that's why it could never be a competitive fight. Whatever you want to say, there wasn't a second that was competitive in that fight. I mean, that was just a pure, unadulterated beatdown.
Hey guys, want to take a quick pause to give a thank you to today's sponsor, Athletic Greens, the all-in-one daily drink to support better health and peak performance. Love this stuff. Take it every day. I credit Athletic Greens with keeping me healthy through multiple marathon training cycles. As some of you know, I've run faster every year for the last 15 years, from 35 to 51. I've still got work to do this year to get a faster time in 2022, and I've got the Berlin Marathon and Chicago Marathon coming up in the fall, so you can bet your behind that I won't be missing a day of Athletic Greens. It's an insurance policy for my health and immunity system, especially with all the work travel that I do. It's important that you get all the nutrients, vitamins, minerals, whole food sourced ingredients that Athletic Greens provides, especially when you live in a hectic lifestyle. You're working a lot, you're training, you've got a lot of commitments. Whether you do or you don't, it's just emphasized when you do have all those commitments that you get all the nutrients that you need. Go to athleticgreens.com/Atlas to get 10 free travel packs with your first purchase. I love these travel packs. To me, they're invaluable. athleticgreens.com/atlas, 10 free travel packs with your first purchase. Also like to give a shout out to one of my favorite running apparel brands, Wallaco, Way of Life Athletic Clothing Company, based in New York, founded by the great Terry White, lacrosse extraordinaire. This is a brand built by athletes for athletes. It really is good stuff. Their kind of patented signature move is they've got a waterproof pocket that fits your phone perfectly, because let's face it, no one's going anywhere without their phones these days. So I love these shorts. I wear them in the summer. I wear them in the winter under tights. I have these Wallaco shorts on constantly. Go to wallaco.com. Use the promo code ATLAS and they'll give you 20% off, whatever you like. Sweatpants, t-shirts, they've got it all. Love these guys. Terry White at Wallaco, doing it right. Wallaco.com, use the promo code ATLAS. Also like to give a quick shout out to Botanic Tonics. You guys know this stuff. Feel Free, it's called. It's a, I guess you could describe it as a euphoric botanical tonic based on the kava leaf. And listen, I take this stuff before my big workouts. I take it before races, whenever I need a pick-me-up. It's advertised as creating a euphoric feeling. I think it gives me a quick boost of energy, but I've also taken it when I've sat down to watch sports, and it just makes me feel good. So check them out at Botanic Tonics. I believe it's botanictonics.com, but go to the show notes. They'll give you 40% off your purchase using the promo code ATLAS, ATLAS, for 40% off your feel-free purchase, Botanic Tonics.
The thing I'll say about Lemieux, and I tweeted this, was if you needed a definition of what it meant, that age-old saying where fighters say, I'm going to go out on my shield, that's what it means. People talk about it, but quite often they don't. That's what it means. That attitude, that toughness, that kind of, unbelievable will to keep getting up and keep taking a beating and going out on your shield. And thank God that the corner acted responsibly and compassionately in the third when they stopped it, when they just got up and stopped it. Because who knows how much longer, probably wouldn't have been much longer, he would have continued to behave that way as we want our fighters to behave. But those kind of fighters, Cus D'Amato used to say to me, my mentor would say, Teddy, those guys need the right people around them to protect them from themselves. Some fighters don't. They're gonna make sure they don't get beat up. They're gonna pull the ripcord. You know what I mean? They're gonna pull it themselves and eject themselves out of danger. But these kind of guys, they do need the right people around them to protect them from themselves, because of the attitude they have, because of the code they have, because of the pride they have, because of the toughness that they obviously have. So we want to always deliver the unabashed, unadulterated truth. Yeah, I like Benavidez, like you said, but I'm going to say something and qualify it in a different way than you. And I should, from my position where I come from, not just as a fan, as a person who makes a living in this business and been fortunate enough to do my whole life, is that Benavidez had a guy in there with him where he couldn't help but look good. So before I go gaga, with drinking the Kool-Aid and going, oh my God, Benavidez, is the next, Bob Foster, Joe Louis, Marvin Hagler, before I go crazy, which I know fans will, because they're fans. They have the right to do that. They feel that's their right. Okay, it's your right to go gaga. It's not my right, not as a professional commentator that has to put it out there in the proper context. Yeah, he looked good. Damn right he looked good. Against a guy that was there to look good with, that was made to order for Benavidez. Made to order for him. Just like you order a cheeseburger with medium well, with tomatoes, few fried onions, made to order. That's what this was. So I'm not saying don't like Benavidez. I like him. Matter of fact, before you maniacs out there start attacking me, which you saying, he doesn't like Mexicans, something retarded like that, ridiculous like that. No, because I mean, really,
so stupid.
But before you start doing that, I'm the same guy that was saying that Canelo cannot call himself the best 168-pounder until he fights Benavidez. I said before the fights were made that he's going to destroy Plant. He's going to go right through Saunders. He's going to go through both. They're made to order. I'll say it again. They were made to order for Canelo. Lemieux was made to order for Benavidez. So before you start going out there and saying, it's because they don't like Mexicans, you dodo birds. There's been a sighting of dodo birds. I asked Rob to put up a picture. I always wanted to know what a dodo bird looked like. And so Rob promised me that he would get a picture up there, and we're going to make it a practice on this show that if you show any of the similar characteristics of a dodo bird, his beak, the nose, anything, and the dodo stuff that can come out of some people's mouths, if you show any of those characteristics, you will. There's the dodo. Now, Ken, if we spot any of these dodo birds, around our show, we're going to ask them to sit on the sidelines. Listen, we'll allow dodo birds in, but not until they sit out a little while and they have a chance to think about some of the things that they say. I know they're fans and you're allowed to be whatever you want, but you have to have some sense of responsibility. A chance to control your emotions for a second and at least listen to what we're saying instead of just being a dodo bird. So if we see anybody, they might be hiding it a little bit, putting glasses on so you don't see that beak, or, putting on overcoats so the feathers don't stick up, whatever. But if we have a feeling that you're a dodo bird, we might have you sit on the sidelines for a little while before you can come back. Just to give it, just like we do with kids where we give them a timeout. Take a timeout. Think about. We're not taking away your ability to have your beliefs and stuff, but just think about it. Think about it a little bit. Doesn't make us right all the time, but when we say things, we're saying it based on some form of experience, some form of proof of what we can judge it against. Some opinion based on experience in the business. And at the end of the day, it's an educated opinion, but it's still an opinion. We just ask you to, we don't want to get overcome by dodo birds. So we just ask you to give it a little bit of thought. Rob will give out a number later on that you can call if you're on that list, and you can appeal the decision on our website. If no one answers to that hotline number that you get, just keep calling. Just keep calling, because the operators might just be overwhelmed with dodo bird calls.
Yeah, anyone who's out there thinking that we don't like a nationality or a race, to the idiot who called me a racist on Twitter, grow up, dude. Do some homework. Get informed. That's so stupid. If anything, we just try to give our opinion. If there is a black guy, a white guy, a Mexican guy that behaves badly and we point it out, has nothing to do with the race. It has to do with that individual.
And you know who we're going to fight with next? We're going to have problems with PETA. Am I pronouncing that right?
PETA.
Okay.
People for ethical treatment of animals.
That's the first problem. I pronounced that freaking name wrong. But we have a problem with them. What do you have against dodo birds? I don't really per se have a problem with dodo birds. I have a problem with dodo people who behave like dodo birds. How's that, yep. PETA? So I getting back to the fight, he might become the greatest fighter ever, Benavidez. I don't know, but to go nuts right now after beating a guy you're supposed to beat. What do you think? The network? You think the promoter? You think the whole management team didn't put him there for him to obviously get this result? They're building up Benavidez. Of course they did. So to get this result with what they had in front of them, a game guy that gets hit with everything, like the old timers would say, gets insulted if you miss him. You know, it's harder to miss Lemieux than it is to hit him. The old timers would say that. So before you go and anoint him the greatest that you've ever seen, calm down a little bit. Now, having said that, like I said long time ago, I said Canelo cannot be called the best in that division. I don't care how many belts he has until he fights Benavidez. I'd like to see. Obviously, Canelo might have to rematch with Bivol. He's the big money maker, Canelo. He's got options on who he can fight. If he doesn't go for the rematch, he could pick a spot wherever he wants to go. You know, when you're the cash cow in a business, you're the golden goose that lays the money eggs, the golden eggs. You can pick who you want to fight. I would love to see Canelo either fight Benavidez. He does the rematch with Bivol. Fine. I don't want to see, just like I said about other fighters on this program, when they get to the point where it's where you just know who's going to win, where it's no longer a challenge. It's no longer really a competition anymore. I don't want to see him fight those fights anymore. I don't want to see Benavidez with these kind of guys. I know how big, I know how strong he is. I want to see him fight other guys. Now, I wouldn't mind him fighting the 42-0 Gilberto Ramirez. People forgot about that guy.
That's a good one.
He's 43-0 actually. Now, he was already super middleweight champ, so we know he could probably come back down. He moved up to light heavyweight, Gilberto Ramirez. So I'd like to see him fight him. Or, as I said, let him fight, if not Canelo, or the winner of Canelo Bivol, if they fight, let him fight the winner of Joe Smith and Beterbiev. He's only 25 years old, Benavidez. He can move up to light heavyweight. I just don't want to waste time down into super middleweight. He's cleaned it out.
What about Caleb Plant? What about Caleb Plant or even Saunders?
No, please. Because the same thing, if I could tell you before the fight, him and Saunders were going to get knocked out, which I did, we're going to get knocked out by Canelo, then I could tell you the same thing what's going to happen with Benavidez. They're not strong enough. They're not equipped to be able to deal with a guy of Benavidez's abilities, size, strength, everything that he brings into the ring. It's not competitive. So, like I said, I only want to see the fights that I mentioned. I'll tell you, I will also mention a fight that I think that will probably a lot of people would kind of react to me mentioning this fight. And that would be if they could get Demetrius Andrade. Now, a lot of people are going to be shocked I'm saying this, But I'm going to say things that are going to shock people once in a while because I'm going to go outside the realm and outside the boundaries where he's a middleweight, undefeated middleweight, been undefeated for a long time, champion. He gets very little attention. Doesn't make the huge money his style's boring. His style's not electric. He's undefeated. He was an Olympian, but he knows how to fight. Yes, he's a defensive minded guy in certain ways. He's long, he's tall, he's got the kind of body that could go, the frame, that could go up to super middleweight, and he's always complaining he doesn't get the big fight. So here's a way to get the big fight. For him to fight Benavidez. Now again, because he's got the frame to go up, I wouldn't say it otherwise. And because his skill level, he's undefeated. Here's what he doesn't bring. He doesn't bring the name's value. Benavidez won't do it because he's not going to make big money with this guy because nobody's clamoring at the gates to see Demetrius Andretti. Nobody's clamoring to get to the window to buy a ticket to see him. I think I explained that properly and fairly, but it would be interesting for the boxing aficionado, for the inside boxing guy that is curious about matchups, to see that he's always complaining about not getting a fight. He could get the big fight, and you could see how good he is. You could find out how good he is, not just how boring he is, but is he good enough with that boring style to be able to frustrate a big, strong Benavidez. Maybe Benavidez could come down to 164. But again, there's no reason for Benavidez and his people to make this because at the end of the day, they're not going to get rich fighting this guy. Nobody cares. And number two, only the boxing insiders might care. And that's why I bring it up. And it's a lose-lose proposition for Benavidez because if he beats him, the guy was too small. And if he struggles with him, it looks bad for him. That a little guy, they're going to call him a little guy, took a little bit of the shine off of the guy that is shining right now. That all the fans out there, like I said earlier, are going to be looking to anoint the greatest of all time. And again, it's just not fair to do that until he gets tested, until he's in there with somebody that you can get a real barometer. You're not getting that from Lemieux, who's that easy to hit. I'm sorry. I know he's a game son of a gun. And I'd like to see him get a $50,000 bonus. I'd like to see these promoters in boxing take a page out of Dana White's book. And when it's a great fight or when they show great fortitude and heart to the level that Lemieux did, give him a $50,000 bonus. I would love to see that practice. I know it's not my money. I know, but I'd still like to see it. And if it was my money and I was in that position to have that money to be promoting, I would do it. You just have to trust me on that. But I would do it. So, anyway, to the pure analysis of the fight, here's the thing for Benavidez that still has to happen. Yeah, he's got to be in there with that opponent that can truly show you what he really is versus what we think he is. Big difference. He needs that opponent. Yeah, that dance partner. But what I like about him, for the people that think I knocked him, I'm not knocking him. I'm the first one to say that Canelo can't be considered the best 168-pounder until he fights him. So I'm not knocking him. And I'm not just saying he's only big and strong. He's gotten better. He's developed. He's got a little more finesse to him, a little bit more. He's developed better. Where before he was more raw. He was just a big, wiry, good puncher, aggressive, confident guy that goes after you. Now, he's a guy that He showed me the things that I want to see. I've seen a million guys, so have you guys, that are just strong and good punches. But now he's shown the things that it takes to be a great fighter, or potentially a great fighter. He's not there yet. But where he's doing smart things, he's doing more developed things, more technical things. You know, he's where he can control the outside, where he can counter punch. The punch that dropped Lemieux, for example, in that first round, Ken, that was a beautifully set up, well-placed counter left hook, because he gave enough room to Lemieux on the outside to make a mistake. He let him reach in with the right hand, and when the opening was there at the right moment, bang, he filled that hole with a counter left hook. That's smart. That's the stuff that is the making of top fighters. To go with the talent, to go with the size, to go with the power, to go with the reach. You have to have that part if you're really going to be considered a top fighter. If you're going to beat the top fighters when you get in there, you have to have that part. And he's starting to show me that part, where he throws punches at the right times. He selects the right spot for a punch. Again, he creates a situation where he can expose his opponent, where he can set a trap, do things. His identity in that first round, or at least part of that first round, was the identity that I've been waiting for him to embrace. I've been waiting for him to really take ownership up. Controlling the outside where you're set, your feet are set, but you're on the outside where you can use that reach, you can use that height, and where you force your opponents to take a risk to get to you. A risk that you don't have to take. Where they have to come in, they have to go, as I always like to say, through a bad neighborhood to get to you. And then you mug them. He was doing, that's the identity I believe he needs. He's not there yet. Because there what? Teddy, how are you going to say anything negative about his performance? I'm not negative. I'm saying if he's going to be a great fighter, there was spots where he went into the geography that he can't with top fighters, when he has that advantage on the outside, where he went in close, where Lemieux, it didn't matter. He was going to beat Lemieux inside, outside, or standing on top of the ropes. He was going to beat Lemieux. That's the truth. Like it, don't like it. You know what? I don't care. Go to the Dodo Bird registry and ask them if I care. I don't care. But if you're going to beat the top guys, whether it's Canelo, whether it's Bevo, whether it's Benavidez, whether it's Joe Smith one day, you know, whether it's Gilberto
Ramirez,
who's 43-0, and a former 168-pound champ that I talked about earlier. Whatever, you're gonna have to have a solid identity and stick to it. Be consistent. You're gonna have to consistently use your advantages, those physical advantages, on the outside. When he did go inside, he got the better of it. He knows how to fight inside. That's a good thing. I'm not knocking him for it. He knows what to do on the inside. I'm just saying with the top fighters, you're going to have to take advantage of what you have an advantage of on the outside and fight that, have that mindset, have that mantra, have that identity. When he did go inside with Lemieux, Ken, there were times where Lemieux almost did have success, but he was so outgunned, he was so overwhelmed, he was so outclassed that it wasn't going to matter. It wasn't going to matter. But there were spots on the inside where Benavidez stood tall, which he has a habit of doing when you get close to him. And when you stand tall, you give a lot of target. Like I used to say, it's like being next to a skyscraper building. Yeah, it's beautiful to see those skyscrapers on the outside, but when you get close to them, there's a lot of windows to break. You could chuck a left hook up top and break a window. And there were spots there where Lemieux was looking to nail him up top on the chin with a left hook and came very close on the inside. And that was his only chance. What I'm saying is, why give a guy who doesn't have the equipment you have to have a chance by fighting him in the wrong geography, in the wrong place, when you could give him no chance by fighting on the outside. No chance. And Lemieux had that chance. At the end of the day, again, I understand it didn't matter. But those are the things. That's what I'm here for. That's why the fans come to us. I know some of you just want to hear the good stuff if it's your guy, but I'm giving you good stuff, and I'm giving you stuff that he can build on. Constructive criticism that he needs to build on if he's going to go into that Hall of Fame place that you guys envision him going if you're his fan. And yeah, he tore him up. He tore Lemieux up inside, outside, everywhere. But if he's going to tear up the really top guys, he's going to have to be consistent with where he does it, how he does it, that identity I speak about. And that's going to have to be in the area that it was in the beginning of the first round, on the outside. I think that he's going to have those things in place to go along with his power, to go along with his attitude, his aggression, his confidence. He's going to have those things in place when he goes up to the big boys, when he goes up there. You know, and again, I don't want to see Plant. I don't want to see Saunders. I don't want to see any of those guys in that division. I don't need to see that. I just want to see him in with somebody that in my opinion, could say, okay, like I did when Bivol was fighting Canelo. Okay, this can be interesting. And by the way, I want Rob to get up to Texas from your kids with the baseball, the great baseball prodigy, your son who just threw that beautiful game in Little League. I want him to get up those Texas, and if we could make room for one of my little things in between Ken's, make room for mine, where I did say during the show last week when we did a quick preview of the Benavidez Lemieux fight, I said, correct me if I'm wrong, Ken, but I think I said this fight will end with Benavidez knocking out Lemieux with an uppercut. I'm going to put up a prediction that at the end there's going to be action, some action, and then at the end Benavidez is going to finish him with an uppercut, because that would be a punch that would make sense in this fight. Lemieux a little shorter. He likes to crouch a little bit. He likes to move his head, bend forward a little bit as he comes to you. I could see the uppercut being the perfect punch to end the night for Benavidez. I know that he hit him with everything. He hit him with every repertoire punch that he has. So I don't really deserve any real platitudes for that, because he hit him with a lot of different punches. But I would argue that the uppercut was the right punch to figure on going into that fight. It did land. It did damage. Just like the other punches did. I'm not arguing that. They all landed. But the uppercut, there was a reason to pick that punch because of the style of Lemieux. And the style and the height of Benavidez, where Lemieux going to come forward, going to be aggressive, he's going to bend, he's going to lean forward as he's doing it, and he's going to be vulnerable to that punch. And he was. He was vulnerable to that punch. And every other punch on God's earth.
I was going to say, the only thing he missed him with was a roundhouse kick and a spinning back fist.
Yeah. Well, in MMA, he would have hit him with that too.
Hey, news just came in. Canelo said this morning, allegedly, according to Twitter, Boxing Twitter, says Canelo's goal right now is to come back down, do the trilogy with Triple G, go back up, avenge the loss with Bivol, and then come back down and defend all the belts. Because I was going to ask you, break down the Benavidez Canelo, but at this point, we're at least a year away from that fight. According to Canelo, and I have nothing to indicate that he's chomping at the bit to get in there with Benavidez. That's like one of those ones that you described earlier. That's all risk. young guy coming up. If Canelo beats him, I don't think he gets the credit he gets for beating a Bivol or even a Triple G. And if he doesn't beat him or he doesn't look good doing it, they're like, oh, the young guy, this is the new Mexican American superstar. So I don't think we're getting that anytime soon.
Again, if he wants to consolidate all the belts at 168, it goes through Benavidez at this point. And I said this before it was as easy to say as it is today. I said this months and months and months and months and months ago. He was the guy who represented the most danger to Canelo. Nobody else. Nobody else in that division. And, if Canelo, it's his choice. He's the golden goose. He's got the privilege of picking. He wants to fight Bivol again. I could tell you right now, for me, Bivol wins again because he's got the style, he's got the goods, mentally, physically, technically, to beat Canelo again. I mean, a lot of people.
He's got the confidence too. Got the confidence that he already handled him pretty easily.
But for me, he beats him again, unless there was a little talk about Bivol going down to 168. I don't think he should do that. He's a light heavyweight. You beat him. You didn't put a gun to Canelo's head to make him go to 175. He had done that before. He beat former champions there before with Kovalev, right? You didn't put a gun to his head. He wanted to go up. He wanted to show his greatness, and I give him credit for that, Canelo. And he went up. Yeah,
that's a good point, Teddy, is that they're going to come out and say, like, oh, you hate Canelo. We love Canelo, the fighter. We love Canelo. He did what he's taken big challenges. We said that was the most dangerous fight. Beterbiev or Bivol was the most dangerous fight for Canelo. And credit to him for going up and getting it and making the fight.
I don't want to see him at 168. He fought him at the weight for a reason. Because Bivol's the best light heavyweight in the world. One of the best. Now most people will say maybe he is the best, either him or Beterbiev. We'll see what happens with Beterbiev and Joe Smith. Don't count Joe Smith out. Beterbiev.
Hell no, you can't fight. You can't count Joe Smith out. Anyone who is crazy.
He's getting older, number one, and he's been in a lot of tough fights, amateurs, pros, everything. Joe Smith is one rugged customer and strong and good puncher. It's going to be a great fight because he fights the way Beterbiev, you could say, is a little level above him. Okay, but he fights the same style, the same attitude, the same way as Beterbiev fights, with the same goal. I'm going to go break you down and get to you. The body to the head. I'll walk through fire. I'll walk through whatever I got to. I'll walk over glass, whatever. But I'm going to get to you. And so it should be, with that description I just gave of both of these guys' mentalities and physical styles, that, it's not getting the exposure or the talk that it deserves to get. That should be a hell of a fight. But again, Canelo, I want to see him, let him fight. Even if Canelo fought, I guess that's a choice for him, actually, now that I'm thinking. I mentioned Gilberto Ramirez, right? I guess as far as fighting, the fights that I mentioned earlier, that he could fight Benavidez, blah, blah, blah. But he could fight Canelo, too. Canelo could easily, I don't know if it's an all-Mexican fight. It definitely would have some appeal to it. Ramirez 43-0, throws a lot of punches. Former 168-pound champion, now 175-pound contender. That's one that could be too, But we know who we want him to fight. We also know who we don't want him to fight because it's a waste of time.
Yep. Well, I think we covered Benavidez as thoroughly as can possibly be done. Let's talk about the upcoming fight this weekend with Kambosos and Devin Haney. This is an awesome fight on paper. I mean, all the belts on the line. Credit to Devin Haney for going down to Australia, fighting in Kambosos' hometown, basically. And, you know, Kambosos earned the right to host that fight in Australia by beating the great Teofimo Lopez and taking all the belts. I'm dying for this fight. What are you looking for? What do you like? Sorry, it's June 5th. If I said next week, I meant June 5th, that fight, 2 weeks.
It's an intriguing fight for many reasons. You're going to have something that you don't get too often in boxing. You're going to have an outdoor arena. I think it's a rugby arena. They play a lot of rugby over there in down under. But it's going to be a tremendous crowd, a tremendous atmosphere, outdoors, as I said. You get to see it on ESPN. So it's not pay-per-view. So it's going to draw a lot of fans. And it's for 4 belts. You know, who knows? They're probably creating a belt as we speak, right, Ken? Because they do. They do. I mean, just like if you go down to Canal Street, you know, down in Chinatown, in Manhattan, not far from where I live, you go across the boat, the ferry, or you drive over the bridge, you know, you go do a little shopping down there. You know, great place to do some shopping. But you can get a lot of knockoffs. You know, you can get those bags that, you know, cost $10,000, those designer bags. You could get them for $10, you know, right? I mean, you go to the...
Just don't bring them out in the rain.
Don't bring them out in the rain or the wind. Wind and rain, bad. And so you could go over there, you could get plenty of belts, WBC, IBF, IBF, WBO, WBO, IB Felonious, we be collecting, we be asking, whatever belt that your heart desires, you can go down there around Canal Street, walk around, you could get it. So they'll probably come up with another. But really, legitimately, Kambosos is one of the unique guys in the business. He's got 4 belts. Now, of course, Haney has a belt too. They created another. They gave Haney. And Haney, I can't argue. Haney's terrific. But it's supposed to be 4 belts. So, whatever. I don't know. Whatever it is. So, it's going to be an attractive fight for people, and I think it'll be well watched. And we're working on getting Haney on the show. You know, he's over there down under, so we're going to have to work out the logistics and everything else. His great PR man, Fred is...
Sternberg.
Fred Sternberg, my friend, just a good man and a great PR guy. He is the best in boxing with the PR stuff. He's trying to get him again. The scheduling is tough because of the time difference over there, but hopefully we'll get him. We're also going to have Dave Portnoy on pretty soon, as long as I'm talking about things to look forward to coming up. We're also looking to get Michael Chandler. You talk about, he reminds me of Mike Tyson in boxing. You know, he's a guy that he goes to get you. You know what I mean? Chandler, If you like offense, if you like explosiveness, if you like a guy willing to take risk to make it exciting, to get to what he wants to get to, you like Chandler. So we're looking to have all those guys come on the show coming up in the next few weeks. We got our friend, and really you talk about the top human beings and top fighters in MMA, UFC specifically. You got to put Dustin Poirier's name in there, and we got him coming up on an interview. And you talk about a guy that did it the right way. I mean, there's a guy that earned his way to the top, which a lot of guys do, but there was no silver spoon attached to him getting to where he got to. And people love to see that and love the story behind that. But this fight in Australia, this is how I'm going to break it down. Get me the odds. Haney's the favorite, from what I understand. Now, he's going in the backyard of Kambosos, and so he's got to deal with that. But really what matters is who's got the judges. That's what matters. Who controls the judge? No matter where it is, there can be an influence to the geography, no doubt about it. But who does the promoter want to win more? Because that's the one who controls the judges. Who does the promoter really want to win more? The promoters, in this case, plural, want to win more. And
all right, you ready for the line?
Yeah.
I got, according to my bookie, check them out, mybookie.ag, use the promo code Atlas. I got Haney minus 175, slight favorite. Kambosos plus 135.
Yeah, that's not slight.
Favorite.
That's a little more than slight
Decent
favorite.
size favorite.
Yeah, it's a good size favorite. Look, especially when you're fighting a champ with 4 belts, undefeated, as you are, as Haney is, and you're going to his home country to fight. So that's my point. I knew he was favored, but that's why I brought it up. Most people think Haney's going to win. There's a reason. I'll tell you why. If there was a boxing book, and with a lot of pictures in it, Boxing 101, classic boxing, back in the old days, our beautiful fans who we love, we miss when we don't talk to you enough over across the pond in England. They were the classical boxers. They looked like a boxer was supposed to look. Straight up, sharp, almost pretty. Like a pretty look to him. That's Haney. Haney's pretty. I'm not, making him feminine, or I'm not making him less man. But his finesse, his speed, his approach, his style, his look, he's pretty to watch. He throws combinations. They're sharp. He's a sharpshooter. He knows how to control the center of the ring. He can use his legs in and out when he has to. His defense is responsible. He is a pretty boxer. He is a picturesque boxer. If you wanted to show somebody a picture of what most people envision as a great boxer looking like, Haney would fit the bill. He really would. So with all that speed, finesse, confidence, he's undefeated, everything else, even though he's going all the way over, far away, right, to almost the other side of the planet, going all the way over to Australia, where he's still the favorite. That tells you everything I'm speaking about. It tells you what they think he's going to win the fight. And I understand it. His speed is going to be something to deal with Kambosos. His sharpness, his pot-shotting ability is going to be something to deal with Kambosos. His ability to control the outside a little bit is going to be something to deal with for Kambosos. Let's break it thoroughly down. There's something that people are not bargaining on when they make him minus 175. They make Haney 175 and they make Kambosos plus 135. They're not taking into consideration. You know what it is, Ken? It's the fact that, Haney's faster. Haney's sharper. He's all those things. Kambosos knows how to time you, as he showed against Lopez, where he was a big underdog. He knows how to time you. Timing beats speed. I say it again. Timing beats speed. Timing can negate speed. Yeah. He knows how to throw at the right time where your speed advantage doesn't give you an advantage at that moment. And I'll tell you something else. Haney is a guy that I gave him all these superlatives that he deserves. But he's also a guy, he's not a huge puncher. He's a sharpshooter, but he's not a big puncher. He hits you combinations, he hits you clean. He definitely can affect you, no doubt about it. And he can cut you up too. But he's not a sharpshooter. He's a sharpshooter, but he's not a TNT hydrogen bomb puncher. But also, as smart as he is, as classical as he is, with all that finesse, all that ability, he gets hit clean almost every fight before the final bell. Not every fight, but in a lot of fights. He gets hit clean before. He'll walk in the rain without getting wet for a while. But then all of a sudden, he'll get wet. And when he does, his umbrella has holes in it. His chin, not that it's a bad chin, he has great heart. But his chin is not the Rock of Gibraltar. It's not. It's just not.
Who do you get rocked against? Was it your Gamboa or Linares? One of them hit him with a shot at the end of one of the rounds and had him rocked.
Well, he got rocked in a couple fights, but Linares had him hurt.
Yeah.
Linares had him hurt. Well, look, Linares, people are going to say, but Teddy, he dropped Lomachenko. Yes, okay, gotcha. Right hand, straight right hand. Lomachenko got caught, and then Lomachenko with one arm wound up knocking him out because he had to have shoulder surgery on his right arm after that fight. So he was relegated to basically his left hand, and he wound up stopping Linares, who's a warrior. I like Linares, but he stopped Linares with a left hand to the body, I believe. So, look, we speak facts here, and I'm not afraid to go out on a limb where somebody will shoot it back at me. That's because I am basing it on facts, on my opinion, but also facts. And he doesn't have that cast iron chin. His beard, as the old timers would say, his beard can be trimmed a little bit. It can be, and it has been. So when you put those factors in, and you don't just get overcome with the first part of it, the speed, the finesse, the skill level, the shininess, how shiny, Haney is. And he is shiny as hell. But when you get down to this guy with 4 belts fighting in his home country that already pulled off a huge upset, that he knows how to time you. He knows how to go the distance. He knows how to find a way. He knows how to overcome adversity, having gotten off the floor late in that fight against Lopez. He did something the old timers always drilled into my head, and Customato drilled into my head. He won a title, and that usually means they improve. Usually the rule of thumb was, the old timers would say, when a guy wins a title, Teddy, he improves 30%. So if you add that in, and we've seen proof of that, but if you add that in, I'll tell you, I see the fight as Haney getting ahead. I'm not going to argue that. I think he's going to know he wants to get out to a good start in a hostile environment, in somebody else's, environment, somebody else's house. And I think I see with his speed, his finesse, his counter punching, his combination punching, I see him getting ahead. But I can also see Kambosos being that guy that knows how to hang around and gets lifted a little. I know you're alone in that ring. It's a solo adventure. That's what makes boxing so great. It's just you. MMA too. It's just you and the other guy, nobody else. No matter where you fight, you're alone in that ring. Unless you have a crooked ref. But we'll put that aside for a minute. And so you're alone in that ring. But I could see him being lifted and buoyed a little bit outdoors with the roar of that crowd. A little bit like his countryman John Horn was when he fought the great Manny Pacquiao. Jeff Horn, I'm sorry. The great Manny Pacquiao and Jeff Horn. Jeff Horn, I did that fight. That's part of the reason why. And I'm proud of it. I'm here with you. I'm not going to say it the wrong way like I did once before. That's why I've been uplifted. That's why I've been upgraded to the position of doing a podcast that has passed 254,000 subscribers. We're proud of you. We're grateful. A podcast with Ken Rideout. Okay, I got it the way I wanted to get it. Got it the right way. So, but that's part of the reason why, through my choice, that I'm here. And because in that fight, Jeff Horn did not win that fight. He didn't win. He fought gamely, courageously, which I said and I noted, but he didn't win that fight. Pacquiao should have won that fight. But he had some things against him. The people that control that part of boxing, the judging, the administrative part of it, the the ugly part of it. The beautiful part is what the fighters do in the ring. How they behave, how they find light in darkness, how they do that. That's beautiful. But the ugly part is what the promoters in cahoots with the judges can do. And because they want to make money. And there's different reasons to make money. Everyone said, well, Pacquiao would make more. No, not necessarily so. When you have a situation where the promoter, in this case, of course, Arum attached to ESPN, right, with the network, when he's got this situation, he's got, he controls the fighters, both fighters, because in order to get that fight with Pacquiao, you obviously have to give over options if you have Horn to be able to fight the big guy, your moment, your chance. You have to give options for 3 fights, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. The idea is there, understood. So, and then you got a wily, and that's being very polite, but Wiley's pretty polite, guy like Arum, that has a legendary fighter like Pacquiao, who's getting long in the tooth a little bit, and has a quote of X amount of millions of dollars that you have to pay him, and Arum no longer wants to pay him that. So what do? There's a lot of things there. I'm not saying I for fact anything, but there's a lot of things that could happen. Am I there? I know enough about it that what scenarios are very plausible. Let's put it in a nice way. Very plausible. So you have a guy that suddenly you're not in love with as much as you used to be. He's outlived his usefulness to a certain extent, even though Pacquiao proved everyone wrong. He went on beyond that after that loss that was given to him. He went way beyond that. But you got a guy who's going to sell out a outdoor stadium that the people are going to come, great fans in Australia, right? Great fans, great sports fans, great sports fans. And they're going to, and great fight fans, great rugby fans. And they're going to come out and they're going to support this guy in that area. And so you make a deal with his people, right? And, so now you have both fighters, and you make a deal, and you make sure that somehow, maybe by accident, you get maybe some judges that maybe will go with the exuberance of the crowd, with the just watching an underdog hang in there with a legend, everything that goes with that moment. You get the right things in place, right? The right judges, the right things in place. And Pacquiao doesn't know what hit him. It's not a left hook. It's not a right hand. It's not a jab. It's not a body shot. It's all of a sudden a new welterweight champion of the world, Jeff Horn. And that happened. Did it happen exactly that way? That's just my possible scenario. Possible. I don't know. Do I have proof? I might have some, but do I have ironclad proof? No. And then what happens? You have a title defense with your new title over there where you're going to sell out the outdoor room with a local guy, where you give him his one gift, right, for winning, where he can make a payday, and they can do it bringing their own music, where you don't have to fight a monster, and you get a payday over there, and you celebrate the new champion, the local champion. And then what do? Well, guys like Arum, they always have the next guy up, right? The next guy in the batter's box, the next guy in the bullpen. The next guy at this case was Terrence Crawford. He was going to be the next superstar. What do? You let him have that fight, Jeff Horn, and then his next title defense, You got it. Against the new man. The new big guy in the stable, the powerful stable of Bob Arum. You put him in with him. And now you pass the baton from Manny Pacquiao to a good guy, to a guy that you have a better relationship with at the time. Didn't turn out that way, but it took a few years. Because things go a little quicker with Mr. Arum sometimes, but it takes a few years. Doesn't happen right away. And so you do your business, and now you hand it over. You hand the keys to the car, to the throne, to Crawford, who doesn't need anything handed. He's a great fighter. He's that good. But you get him the title. And now you got your replacement for the aging Pacquiao, who was asking for too much money. Now you have your new guy in place. Well, you gotta, if that happened once, you gotta think about it over here. But this again, I think the promoters in this case the most important, they're going to have control over the judges, whoever it is they want to win the most. And you're going to have to do it in the ring. I mean, Jeff Horn did have to survive the 9th round where he almost got knocked out. I called the fight there. Where he almost got knocked out. He had to survive that. He had to throw punches. He had to be game. So all those things have to happen. And at the end of the day, the scenario that you could have that I'm describing is that a lot of different things can happen. I put all the plausible possibilities out there in breaking this fight down for the amateur guys out there that are not familiar with the sport, the seasoned veteran fans that we love, that are also, and we love the other ones too, the ones that are just coming on board, the ones that just love the sport, want to love the sport, want to learn more about the sport. I'm just putting out all the scenarios, but I'll finish with this one but. Here's the last but. Kambosos doesn't need as much help as Jeff Horn needed. And I don't care if some fans get upset. So what? You can only exile me from that country once. You can only do it once. Because the promoter did come out and said that he was talking to the head of the head of what do you call it when you travel? Yeah, when you
the travel authority.
Yeah, the immigration,
border patrol.
Yeah, border patrol, whatever. And he was that he went to border patrol and he said, "We do not want Teddy Atlas allowed into this country."
You cannot have a dissenting opinion. You cannot differ with our worldview. Sound familiar? Truth and Reconciliation Board.
Yeah,
you can't have an opinion that goes against the establishment. God forbid.
I was supposedly on the no-fly list, no entry list to go to Australia. But you know what I got to say? The fans, oh my goodness. And they came, and even some of the reporters, I got to tell you, they came back and they were like, Teddy, you could come here anytime you want. Yeah, we don't give a crap with it, especially after Horn got knocked out by he did get knocked out by Crawford, of course, which anybody could have saw coming, as I just described. But the big difference here, Ken, and I want to make this very clear, is that Kambosos doesn't need as much help as Horn needed, because Kambosos is a much better fighter. I'll say it again. He's not a better fighter than Horn. He's a much better fighter. Much better level than Horn. He really is. And so at the end of the day, I can see Haney ahead in the fight. And I can see Kambosos coming on late. And maybe tugging on that beard that has been tugged on a couple times of Haney, maybe late in the fight, and making it very interesting. I understand favoring Haney, I guess is what I'm saying. But I could see the scenario where the underdog, the home underdog, that has already beaten an unbeaten fighter, already beaten a guy that everybody, favored and loved. I could see Kambosos once again surprising people in that way, being that he's minus 175, or the other guy's minus 175 and he's plus. You get back 135.
Yep. All right, Teddy, we got one more coming up this weekend for the fans. Tank Davis fighting Rolly Romero. I think they were supposed to fight before, and it might have been canceled. I think Romero had some legal issues. Never a good sign. But I know that this one's getting. These guys have a lot of bad blood between them. They really seem to hate each other. So just for that alone, I'm looking forward to it. But on the surface, I don't know. I'm dying to get your take. But on the surface, to me, it looks like just another victim for Tank to blast out of the ring. What am I missing? Does Rolly have a chance in hell of making any noise with Tank?
Romero's not really undefeated. He's 13-1. He's not 14-0. I know he's 14-0, but he should be 13-1 because of Marinas. And that's the name I want to know if I was pronouncing. 3 fights ago, Romero lost to Ramirez in a 12-round fight. And I watched the fight. If I didn't watch it, I couldn't speculate to say that. But I watched it, and I think I know what I'm watching. And just like I watched Canelo and Bevo, and there's no way that,
you're talking about Jackson Marinas?
Yeah, Jackson Marinas. So I said his name right. So Jackson Marinas, thank God for your parents sending you to finish in school. Thank God that you pronounce words better than me.
Finishing school at the Billerica House of Correction.
He worked there, by the way. He didn't live there. All right, now I watched that fight live when it happened, and they
August
built up
2020.
The commentators, everybody. Yes, 3 fights ago for Romero on his.
That's exactly right. Yep.
And the commentators built him to the high heavens. Built up Romero. And he was signed with Floyd Mayweather, and he was a real good amateur. He had 140 amateur fights. They were building him up like he was a pro, like he was the next great prospect and beyond prospect. He was going to be the next great sensation, if you will. And I'm not exaggerating it. I mean, that's the way they built him up and the fanfare that they gave him. This poor kid who was also undefeated, this poor kid from the Dominican Republic, Jackson Marinas, I mean, he was like, he was you hardly knew he was in the ring. I mean, this poor guy was not only fighting.
Came in at 19-0, Teddy.
Yeah, undefeated fighter, but you wouldn't know it. You wouldn't know it by the attention he was given or wasn't given. You'd have no idea. Like, it was supposed to be a foregone conclusion that Marinas was going to win. And you know what? It was. It was, because you know what? People don't like this. People do love it. Some love me for it. Some get crazy, especially people that get crazy because I'm exposing them. They don't love it. But the scorecards were made up before the fight started. They were. They were. I mean, there's no other way to explain it. Because that fight, Romero was built up as this, like I said, they were anointing him the next great fighter already. And he had mostly knockouts. Most of his fights were not. I think at that point he knocked everyone out but one guy. And so at that point he was probably 13-0 with 12 knockouts, whatever. Now he's 14-0 with 12 knockouts, I believe, or whatever.
He was, when he fought Marinas, he was 12-0 with 10 knockouts.
All right, so he goes in there, and he read his own press clippings, the kid, because from the first bell to the last bell, he was just throwing haymakers, loading up, bombing away, and trying to live up to, to what people were saying. That he's a great puncher, he's a great prospect, he's the next great fighter, and that he's going to knock this guy silly. Matter of fact, he was quoted, he's brash, he's confident, whatever, he's brash. He said, "I am going to show you the most devastating knockout you people have ever seen." Well, he didn't show that. He didn't show that.
He's talking the same way against Tank. He said he's going to beat the brakes off Tank for 12 rounds or whatever. Like crazy
Well, he better
talk.
have improved because I tell you, he went in there and he is a good puncher. I will give him that. He is physically strong and he's a good puncher. He went in there from the opening bell, as I said, Ken, throwing haymakers, throwing bombs away. But that's not what great fighters do. But anyway, he was throwing not against real good fighters. You can do it against, hand-picked guys. Yeah, you're gonna get all those knockouts. But he was doing it against a guy who was better than he realized he was. And he was throwing all these bombs all night. And what was Marinas doing? He was sticking that long jab in his face early on. All night. And then down the stretch, Marina started doing something else. Besides sticking the long jab in his face, he started counterpunching the crap out of Romero. Started really boxing his ears off, as the old timers would say. He was hitting him with counters. He was in and out. He was beating him to the punch, timing him, and then the jab was still there after all that. He won that fight. Not only did he not get it, the reason I say that the scorecards were made up ahead of time, which is disgusting in this business, but it happens, but it's deplorable every time you see it. They had him up by like 10 rounds, 8 rounds, 9 rounds, 7 rounds, 6, whatever the freak. I think one scorecard was a little close, and one was like 118 to whatever that.
I got them for you here. You want the scores?
Yes, please.
I have Rolly Romero 116, 112. 118, 110, and 115, 113.
Yeah, they had
the way reading those scorecards, you wouldn't even think the other kid landed a punch.
Yeah, well, he landed quite a few. But, as they do, I don't know how many old timers we have, but as they do, they sometimes turn fighters that they don't want to win, that the promoters don't want to win, they turn them into Claude Rains. Rob, put up Claude Rains, will you, when you get a chance? Put up Claude Rains for the people that don't go back that far with great TV classics and movie classics. He was the original Invisible Man back in the, I don't know what year, Ken, 1940s, 30s, whatever. But he was the original Invisible Man, Claude Rains. Well,
1933, The Invisible Man.
There it is. You learn a lot here. Listen, we get you ready for everything you need to know in the sport of boxing, the sport of MMA, and if you want to become a contestant on Jeopardy. We get you ready for everything. So they used to they still do. They turn fighters into Claude Rains when they want. So they turn Marinas into Claude Rains. So really, he's already lost the fight. Here's why I'm picking. He's a good puncher. There it is, the Invisible Man. Thank you, Rob. There he is, the first.
You gotta love the special effects from 33. We need an Invisible Man. All right, just wrap him in bandages.
yeah, exactly. Like the original King Kong. Where you ever see it's like a Rector set. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like you took a model, you took a little model of Empire State Building or of any building, and you glued it together, right? And then you took a little figurine of King Kong, and you put it on top of the the model, the building that you just glued together, and then you get a camera and you film it, and we've come a long way in the magic of the television industry. We've come a long way, obviously. So I'm picking Tank Davis. I know that Romero's a good puncher, and I know he's undefeated, supposedly.
Hold on, you want the line? Yeah,
I'm sure Tank's got to be a favorite.
A favorite minus 1,000 plus 500 on Rolly. Man, these guys, you could drive a truck through that line. Minus 1,000 plus 500.
All right, I'll say this: I always tell you what I really believe in. I'm not swayed by any, whatever you want to call it, any likes or dislikes about a person or about this or preconceived idea. I go by what I believe. but what my eyes tell me, what my judgment tells me, that doesn't belong that high. Because Romero, he was a good amateur. He's undefeated. He hasn't learned how to lose. And he's a good puncher. So it doesn't belong that high. I do like Davis to win by knockout. And I'm going to tell you why. The main reason. Romero's a good puncher. Davis is a great puncher. Romero knows how to box. Davis doesn't get enough credit for how good a boxer he is and how versatile and well-rounded he is as a fighter. He can fight inside, and he's a southpaw. That could be a problem too. But he can fight inside. He can fight outside. He can counterpunch, and he could go freaking get you. And he could go to the body as well as the head. This guy, again, he's become a really solid all-around fighter. He made Teddy Atlas's pound-for-pound ESPN list. He didn't make it overnight. He didn't make it quick. He just recently made it with his last couple performances. He's on the top 10. He's that, for me, he belongs there. For me, he's more than just what he was celebrated as before. Just a good puncher. No. He's a complete package. But Romero can box. He's got abilities too and everything else. Like Costamato would say, my mentor again, Teddy, if you had 140 amateur fights, you better freaking know how to box a little bit. Are you kidding me? After that many fights? I mean, you better have learned something. Otherwise, you should go in the corner and sell Italian ices. You know? So, yeah, he should know how to box a little bit. And, yeah, he does. But here's the key and why I'm putting my money on Tank Davis. The experience. Tank's fought real guys. For me, Romero only fought one real guy and he lost. And maybe he improved a lot from that loss. Maybe. If he's honest with himself and his people around him with the right kind of teachers and developers of young talent, maybe he has. Because those are the kind of fights do improve you, that you need to improve. But Tank Davis has the big edge as far as the quality of fighters he's fought. I don't care how many fighters you knocked out, how many wins you have. I care about who they're against. Davis is against better guys. What does that mean? That means that Davis got questions asked and answered with these fights, being in with that kind of quality opposition that could teach him that, could bring him to those places to learn that, to get the answers to those questions. I'm saying Romero has not gotten the answer to all his questions. He has more questions than answers in his career still, Romero. And that's solely the main reason why I'm picking Davis. Yeah, the talent, everything I already described. But because Davis has been in there with better guys and knows he belongs. He's got answers to questions that all fighters have. He knows he belongs. He knows he can depend on himself. And I don't think Romero completely knows that yet. He might learn. He might learn in this fight, but he doesn't know going in yet. And that's something that he's got to learn. Everyone has to learn. And maybe he gets lucky. I never use that word in boxing because not too many people get lucky. It's because of their talent. It's because of something that they did right under pressure and in extreme conditions of a boxing ring. So I give him credit for doing it. But maybe he lands a punch and that we don't expect and Tank doesn't expect. Okay, it's always possible when you got a guy who truly can punch. But because of what I just said, the difference in the level of opposition, I know more about Tank Davis than I know about Romero. And I'm going with that knowledge. And I'm taking Tank Davis. Go to my bookie, as long as it's not, just don't be spending the food money or the rent money. Please, please, don't be a dodo bird. I think that was one of our lessons here today. You don't want to be a dodo bird What do we take away today from here? Well, Teddy told us don't be a dodo bird. So don't go and bet if you can't afford to bet it. But if you can, my money and my bookie is on Mr. Tank Davis. Somewhere along the line, he sets up a knockout. See, I use that word sets up. He just doesn't go in there winging the way I saw Romero do against Marinas and missing and getting schooled. But I think that Tank Davis has the goods to set up a win and set up a knockout. And I'll finish with this. I try to be the advocate for fighters, for whatever I think needs to be better in this sport. And I already used this moment for this, and I'll finish with this. Marinas, you got robbed. You got terribly mistreated by the business side of this sport, of this business. And for what it's worth, I know everyone listens to this show. I know all the people that are in the administrative business, whether it's Vegas, New York, whether it's wherever, all the organizations, the alphabet organizations that, you could go get their belts down at Canal Street in Chinatown that I talked about. All of them. The commentators that do all the networks, the promoters, they listen. I already know that. We know that. They listen to this show. And sometimes their greatest fear and their greatest wish is that their name doesn't get mentioned on this show. Sometimes they like when it's mentioned because if they do good stuff gets mentioned. Yeah, we don't only pick out the bad. But if they do bad, yeah, they're getting mentioned. They're getting mentioned. So with all of that, I just wish that somebody could do the right thing. And then we'll mention that too. Could rectify, take it away, tearing away that kid Marinas, tearing away his opportunity when he went in the ring, took the risk of fighting an undefeated fighter, as he was, who could punch, who was a top amateur, who was being promoted by the, Floyd Mayweather, who was obviously the powers that be wanted him to win, the network, everybody else, and they did like a kung fu movie, where the kung fu artist just puts his fist right through the guy's chest and pulls his heart out. They did that. They pulled his heart right out because that kid, it broke my heart to watch him after that decision, that he was looking for somebody. He was just looking for somebody to be an ally, to go to and say, how did they do that? Why did they do that to me? I did this for my family. I've been working my whole life to have this chance, and I was ready, and I did what I was supposed to do. How do they do that? How do they? Well, you have an ally in me and Ken. You do. You have an ally for what it's worth, and I hope somebody takes note of what we just said.
Yep. Couldn't have said it better. And with that, guys, that's a wrap on this week. Stay tuned next week, next Monday, Memorial Day weekend with special guest Dustin Poirier, the Diamond. Gives a great interview. I think you guys are going to really enjoy this. And with that, we'll be back the following week to break down all the action from this, from the Tank Davis fight as well as the Haney Kambosos fight. So everyone have a safe and happy long weekend next weekend. Happy Labor Day, Memorial Day, whichever one it is. I always get them confused. And Teddy, thanks for doing this. Great to see you as always.
Great to see you again, Ken. Tell your beautiful family hello. Tell your son congratulations on that pitching performance. Get his, whatever you were talking about. Rob, please get those tweets or whatever they were, those text messages for the young Mr. Rideout. Get them up. He deserves his moment. His father gets plenty of moments. He deserves yes, a little sunshine.
Yes. And with that, guys, thanks for being with us. Please like and subscribe on the YouTube channel. We appreciate you. Have a great long weekend, everybody.